History remembers many battles across Asia, yet rarely mentioned are the moments when Filipino warriors stood face to face with some of the world's most feared fighters. Long before modern borders, Filipino defenders confronted samurai expeditions, Dutch forces and foreign powers who underestimated the strength of the islands. In the 1500s and 1600s, the Philippines became a crossroads of global powers. The Spanish Empire controlled Manila, the Dutch challenged Spanish rule from the sea, the Japanese sent traders, mercenaries, and occasional samurai expeditions. It was a turbulent time. Yet, in the middle of it stood Filipino warriors who refused to surrender their islands. The samurai encounter in Cagayan, 1582. One of the most fascinating events happened in northern Luzon. In 1582, Japanese merchant warriors known as Waco arrived in Cagayan. These groups operated across East Asia. They were skilled fighters, some trained in samurai weaponry, and they attempted to establish control over parts of the northern trade routes. Spanish accounts describe them as well-armed, using swords, armor, and firearms. But what is often overlooked is that Filipinos were part of the defense. When Spanish Governor Gonzalo Ronquillo sent troops north, they did not fight alone. Local Filipino warriors from nearby settlements supported the campaign. They fought as archers, lancers and shield bearers, using native weapons that were lighter and faster than European gear. The battle along the Cagayan River was intense. The Japanese fighters pushed forward with discipline, while Filipino warriors used mobility and knowledge of the terrain to hold their ground. The encounter became known as one of the earliest recorded clashes between samurai and Filipinos. Surviving documents show that Filipino fighters were essential in preventing the establishment of foreign control in the north. Their speed, river knowledge, and strategic coordination allowed them to match opponents who were feared across Asia. While the north faced Japanese incursions, the south confronted another powerful force. The Dutch Republic was in open conflict with Spain during the 17th century. Since the Philippines was a Spanish colony, the Dutch saw the islands as a strategic target. The Dutch fleet launched several expeditions into the Sulu Sea, Zamboanga region, and nearby waters. Their goal was to weaken Spanish influence and control trade routes, but they soon discovered that the south was not easy to conquer. Filipino Muslim communities, especially the Tausug, Samal, Maranao, and Maguindanao, were experienced sailors. They knew every island, channel, and tide. Many were already involved in regional diplomacy and trade long before Europeans arrived. When Dutch ships attempted to control the seas, they were met with fierce resistance. Fast, maneuverable Filipino boats known as Caracoa and Vintas allowed local warriors to respond quickly. These communities possess skill in both sea combat and coastal defense. Historical naval logs describe how Dutch ships attempted to approach Sulu only to be challenged by organized local fleets. The battles were not always one-sided, but the Dutch never established permanent rule in these areas. Filipino fighters simply knew the seas too well. The resistance of Mindanao and Sulu became a symbol of sovereignty. Despite facing an international naval power, the communities held their independence for centuries. The Dutch did not limit their attempts to the south. In 1646, a series of battles known as the naval actions of La Naval de Manila took place. Although remembered for Spanish heroism, Filipino fighters played a large role. Filipinos served as sailors, gunners, carpenters, and support crew aboard the defending ships. Their quick repairs kept vessels afloat. Their rowing power moved heavy galleons through tight maneuvers. Their knowledge of coastal currents allowed defenders to outsmart a more experienced Dutch fleet. Local militias on land also prepared defenses around Manila in case the Dutch landed. Community-based fighters, armed with spears, bows, and local weapons stood ready at the shoreline. The Dutch withdrew after failing to break through. Filipino labor, skill, and frontline courage were central to the victory. Filipino weapons and techniques that surprised foreign forces. Foreign observers often wrote about the weapons used by Filipino warriors. They noted that many were crafted for speed and precision. Kris and Kampilan, used in Mindanao and Sulu. These longswords were balanced for swift, controlled strikes. Spanish accounts mention how the Kampilan could cleave shields and even helmets. Bolo and barong, these shorter blades were used across the islands. They were versatile tools and weapons, capable of both cutting and chopping. Bows and arrows, Tagalog, Visayan and Ida groups used powerful bows. Archers could shoot accurately from a distance, creating a challenge for armored intruders. Shields and armor. Wooden shields such as the taming were used to block arrows and spears. Some groups crafted layered armor from hardwood or animal hide. Caracoa warships in the Visayas and Mindanao. Warriors used fast warboats with rows of paddlers. These ships were among the fastest in Southeast Asia and could surround or escape foreign vessels. Foreign fighters who expected disorganized resistance were surprised by how coordinated and well-trained Filipino warriors were. The role of women in defense. Historical records also note that women occasionally participated in defensive efforts. Although rare in combat, they contributed through logistics, intelligence, and community leadership. In some areas, women warned warriors of incoming raids, carried supplies, and helped prepare medicine. Stories and oral tradition describe women defending villages when men were absent. These contributions were essential to the survival of many coastal communities. Why these battles happened? These conflicts were not random. They were part of larger global struggles. The Japanese were looking for influence in trading zones. The Dutch were challenging Spain for dominance of the Asian seas. Spain was trying to control territory far larger than it could manage. Caught in the middle were Filipino communities simply protecting their way of life. Each group had its own reasons for coming to the islands. Filipinos had one reason to resist: home. The strength of local leadership was, honestly, a key factor. Filipino warriors were guided by local leaders such as datus, rajas, and sultans. Their leadership style was based on respect rather than absolute authority. A datu had to earn loyalty. A raja had to show wisdom. A sultan needed to protect his people. Because leadership was defined by service, warriors trusted their commands. This unity made local resistance strong even without modern armies. What historians learned from these encounters is, well, pretty fascinating. Historians studying these moments discovered several important points. First, Filipino warriors were not passive or unprepared. They were experienced in maritime life, inter-island travel, and local warfare. Second, the islands were politically complex. Different regions had their own systems of defense and diplomacy. Some communities fought, others negotiated, and others built alliances across cultures. Third, the Philippines was already connected to the wider world. Foreign powers came not to discover an unknown land but to enter existing networks of trade and influence. These findings really reshape our understanding of the past. What made Filipino resistance unique? Filipino communities fought with strategies suited to their environment: speed over armor. Lightweight weapons allowed quick strikes and rapid movement. Terrain mastery. Warriors used rivers, reefs, mangroves, and forests to their advantage. Community-based defense. Villages acted as unified teams rather than divided households. Adaptability. Communities learned from past encounters and adjusted their tactics accordingly. This combination gave Filipinos the ability to challenge much larger empires. The legacy of the warriors lives on. The encounters with samurai and Dutch forces are only small parts of a wider story. They remind us that colonial history is not only a story of conquest, it is also a story of those who refused to fall. The warriors of Cagayan, Mindanao, Visayas, Sulu, and Manila defended their islands with courage grounded in community. Their actions protected cultural identity and shaped the nation that exists today. Filipinos were not silent witnesses to global conflict. They were participants, defenders, and strategists. Their legacy continues in the pride of modern Filipinos who still value resilience, unity, and bravery. The story of the Filipino warriors who faced samurai and Dutch invaders is not about glorifying war. It is about recognizing the intelligence and courage of early Filipino communities. They confronted powerful foreign fighters with skill, strategy, and a deep commitment to their homeland. These stories remind us that long before the modern nation existed, the spirit of the Filipino people was already strong. The warriors who stood at the shores, rivers, and seas did not fight for empires. They fought for home, and that is why their legacy continues to inspire today.